In the 1979 made-for-TV movie entitled Salem's Lot, based upon the Stephen King story of the same title, there contains a scene where the character of Ben Mears, played by David Soul, asks his friend and dining companion Jason Burke, "Jason, do you believe a thing can be inherently evil?" Mears was referring to a local haunted house known as the Marston House, a building which had taken on a compelling and terrifying hold upon his consciousness since childhood, and which, for some inexplicable reason, had lured him back to his hometown of Salem's Lot. As a result, the actual nature of the hold which the Marston House had upon Mears' consciousness, he is trying to fully come to grips with. He then elaborates upon his initial question to Burke by further stating, "Can it be evil in its stone foundations, in its wooden beams, in the glass of its windows, in the plaster of its ceilings? Evil?" Of course, the idea of a cursed or malevolent material form such as a building is hardly unusual at all within literary fiction or indeed cinema. King's Salem's Lot was more than a cursory nod of affection to a previous New England horror author, Howard Phillips Lovecraft, who also explored the same tones and meditations upon the concept of the evil building having a magnetic hold upon the individual and collective psyche. Lovecraft's story, entitled The Shunned House, and which indeed was based on a very real building located in Providence, Rhode Island, took the idea of the mundane haunted house motif and from this extruded deeper psychological meditations and metaphors, in that the building itself became a representation of the consciousness of those who occupy its spaces, an idea also explored in Henry James' horror novella The Turn of the Screw back in 1898. The Shunned House, being set in Lovecraft's hometown of Providence, Rhode Island, was but a single brushstroke upon a literary and inspirational canvas which he had painted some of his greatest fictional stories. Having said this, I've long considered Lovecraft to be something of a reluctant shaman, and his fictional stories presented far deeper insights into the darkness and pathology held within certain buildings and entire communities. These shadows within these buildings and communities being completely codependent upon the human and not so human which occupy them. Not only do evil houses attract evil men and evil women, so do entire communities, from small rural villages to specific neighborhoods within megacities, and all manner of urban settlement in between. There are certain locations where wickedness, beyond that of consensual perversions or the prevailing moralistic modalities, where the damned can indulge upon their ghastly sport. Long before there was a deep web, that part of the internet where one can have their psychic energy harvested or charged depending upon one's lack of or servicing of a particular personality disorder, we had communities that served the same purpose, dark towns, which gathered within them the dark souls, where all manner of appalling horrors and perversions are contained within something of a safe house or safe houses, where otherwise highly illegal acts and ghastly desires can be acquired without legal or social consequences. The deep web can be a place where the real hearts of monsters can sing the songs of their tortured spirits. However, this is not a new phenomenon. The deep town traditionally served this purpose. Brazen acts of depravity, indulged and observed behind net curtains and locked doors rather than internet firewalls. Generally, these towns tend to be working class in nature. Not that the social status of the community and its inhabitants are at fault, but rather people struggling to survive are more likely to be desperate. Therefore, more likely to be lured into the will of a wicked individual or collective. Poverty creates a target-rich environment for these predators to prey more effectively. Sweets from a stranger, candy from the Candyman. Such communities are also more likely to contain dysfunctional teenagers prone to running away from dysfunctional homes, homes filled with incest, substance abuse and violence, and these teens tend to often vanish into the world without a trace. Society does not care as much for plain working class girls vanishing off the face of the earth as they do for the daughters of wealthy doctors and other professionals who have also vanished without a trace. In these deep towns, some young people never escape beyond the confines of the town's municipality. They met their tragic fate and were disposed of inside a safe house on another street. Regardless of where we live, we all know of a deep town, a place where there has always been unusual clusterings and coagulations of rapists, killers, and other monsters at rates far beyond that of the societal average for such communities. However, the question remains, why do these deep towns exist? Why do these wicked personalities flock to them to unleash the most depraved desires of their blackened hearts? Are such places cursed in some real manner? Continual histories of social deprivation and hopelessness piled upon one another in order to build the monstrosity of which they become. Were these towns built upon the site of an ancient spiritual location and somehow violated the gods which were once worshipped there? Sitting atop a once murderous battlefield? Was the town built upon genocide, greed, or at the expense of a once beautiful natural environment? We will probably never know why deep towns come into being. We just have to accept that they exist, and certain pathological individuals have an uncanny psychic magnet for locating them and moving into such places. Deep towns, in the same manner as a fisherman might instinctively or through experience locate the parts of a lake with the greatest concentration of potential catch. Beware of the deep town.